It's all right. I'm just gonna rib you back.
That's fine. Go ahead. I know the Ivy League sweater with fingerless gloves and the shepherd's hat is a weird look. I'll give you that.
He's trying to be ironic because he can't just straight wear a Harvard one these days.
Right. I don't wear this in public for sure. This is
That
my
is exactly what you were wearing yesterday. What
going down to the local pub is not going down in public.
Welcome to Beernet Radio. Here's your host, Harry Schuhmacher, with Director of Content, Jenn Kirk, and your Bev Alt Legal Editor, Bianca Bruno, and Jordan Triggers.
Welcome, everybody, to Beernet Radio. We're having a special Wednesday warehouse, just throwing it at you. I think I'm going to put up one or two more videos on our YouTube channel.
From the summit?
Beernet. Yes,
Okay.
from the summit. Just wanted to get y'all's impression. So let me start by saying that I just looked at the surveys. We got about 60 responses, so that's a good sample. The overwhelming majority of folks like the new streamlined schedule. However, there were a few, more than one, so maybe half a dozen comments that they thought the sessions were too short.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Yeah.
we used to do 45, and then the past few years we've gone down to 30, and some people said it felt rushed, and there wasn't enough time for a lot of, to get through all the questions from the audience. It's a weird thing because it kind of depends on the speaker, and we don't know till we get there. Sometimes 30 minutes is too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I
Maybe
think 40 is nice,
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Jen. Maybe we just split the difference, cut the baby in half, whatever you want to call it, and just do maybe 40 minutes. It kind of depends on if it's a panel,
Right.
maybe 40 if it's a quick and dirty. Well, anyway, we're going to figure it out, but I think the new streamlined session, I think serves people better, serves people well. Basically shaves a night off the stay. If you're going to stay for both, which most people do now. And also, since we start midday Sunday, it burns half a day that's not a work day. So, really you could come to the full summit and only miss 2 work days because you could be back Tuesday evening. So
let's just cut into that weekend. Just take it right from you. But we make it fun. Like we emphasize, production value and networking and stuff. So it is fun. I mean, it's fun.
If you come in for the weekend, it makes sense. If you bring your significant other, kind of make a little mini day. The day. The British call it, oh, you must be from London. Go on a little mini holiday. Anyway, so mini holiday. It was JFK weekend. Also, it was wildcard weekend.
MLK.
Yeah, MLK.
What did I say?
JFK.
They haven't done that yet.
But yeah, I was just there were some complaints about that. The playoff games for the NFL also. We had TVs at the receptions. It's hard to pick a week. We used to start it, when we first started this summit, just to give folks a little peek behind the curtain. We started it on Sunday and we did full day Monday, and that was it. It was just a beer summit back then. And then we moved it to Sunday because people were like, well, we don't want to waste a work day. This is back when Gen X was in charge and people actually wanted to be at work. They felt like a convention was just extra. So now people are like, well, I don't want to travel on Sunday because, meh. So I don't know. It's easier to get dates for the Sunday, Monday, Tuesday from the hotel. But anyway, we're already locked in for the next 2 years. So I don't even know why I'm bringing it up. I'll probably cut this in post. So let's just go around and get what was your favorite session and impressions, Jennifer?
Yeah. Ooh, I thought it was all fantastic.
Okay.
No, I mean, I like that we try to get, C-level execs up there and they say a lot. We got some news out of everybody, right? Like Sophia teased the limeade, the new limeade, and Clem teased a lot of new markets, and Sean from New Belgium said a lot of things about, their view and what they might look for in M&A. And also, I don't think a lot of people knew that they also had some wine in that portfolio. That was interesting. And just, how they think about Voodoo Ranger and stuff. I really thought, obviously I'm biased because I was on this panel, but I really liked the Coke panel because, you know, they've said a lot of those things before, but I think there were some other things that to me were new that really kind of gave you more of a hint as to how they're in it to win it, right? Like they talked about their multi-year approach and, you know, the fact that they have this multi-year pipeline of innovation. So, you know, that they're down to weather some storms and talking about their portfolio approach, which was already obvious, but they've already thought about the churn and how much more it is and just how firewalled it is from Coke and the idea that, you know, you don't want like somebody at Coke working on these brands as a line extension because then they build it in like a line extension, right? They're like building it in it just enough and that sort of thing. So, you know, and Jenny talking about them not being afraid to wind down a brand, but we'll see. Side note, since all of this is so like opposite of Pepsi's approach, right? I noticed that Emiliano Di Vincenzo, who was the GM for Blue Cloud, is no longer at the company. I noticed that on LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
So we will see, you know, and they've got a different PR person too, who I'm reaching out to ask like what the way forward is, but it will be very interesting to see what happens there. Sabia is always awesome. He's just,
Wait,
you know.
let me just say, respond to the Coke thing. What Coke's doing, it kind of reminds me of what InBev did in the early 2000s, where, you know, they were just a South American brewery that also owned Labatt, and they wanted to learn more about the U.S. market, and that's kind of how they kind of attached themselves to AB. They let AB import Labatt, and they learned the business, and then they got in a big way, you know,
Right.
and that may be what they're doing is, and I think Pepsi too, honestly, I think they're just kind of learning, seeing how this works, and then maybe getting in it more. But, you know, the branded RTDs is a natural way in. And Coke, you know, I said that this is their first time. They actually owned a wine company back in the 80s.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sold on any of the RTDs released yet. And what we've seen is brands that come into the space through line extensions haven't worked so well. I mean, that's mostly spirits based brand extensions, but I think the same could be said for non-alc as well. There's like this, you know, big rise as soon as they come out, and then it's been tough to cycle after that. Yeah, and you would think that eventually they would have to come out with something maybe totally brand new
Yeah.
to stay in this space.
And a
They
drag
might think differently.
because they're
Yeah.
only getting half the margin. Don't forget.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they're very boom splat. They
Right.
haven't proven themselves to have longevity as a category. They're chasing flavors. I mean, it's already, you know, limeade. What's next? Strawberry limeade, cherry limeade. You know, it's just going to go on and on and on for another probably 12 quarters, and then they'll be discontinued.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, we asked exactly that, right? Because it is boom splat. And then they pointed to the portfolio again, right? Several times. So in my own brain, even though they didn't say this directly, I think that's why they're starting to work with a co-packer. So like what you said, Jordan, like they're not leaning on their supplier to like, let's go again, right? They can just do it themselves and just plug something in. And maybe eventually it is something new to world. And that's why it's a multi-year pipeline. Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue to talk about Mary Guyver's comments, which, you know, she was pretty candid and direct about her fatigue with getting a constant barrage of flavor innovations every time shelf resets come around. A lot of comments from attendees on her.
And it was music to distributors' ears, and it really, hopefully, suppliers were listening to what she said. You know, I love it. She's like, "Don't put us in your boat if you don't have a harbor in a storm."
Yeah.
With no core brand growth. I mean, that was echoed by Jim Sabia, Paul Chibe. You know, just have some really efficient SKUs. And, you know, it's some behind the scenes, the Happy Dad guys were kind of ruffled their feathers because, you know, they're of course coming out with a tea. And they were like, you know, and I go, guys, it's Whole Foods. Like they don't want you and you don't want them. Happy Dad drinkers.
Natural enemies.
And they're like, oh, that's a good point. I'm like, you're in Walmart. Okay. That's where you want to be. And she was definitely speaking from that niche category, but I think it's true across the board. I think Walmart's saying the same thing. HEB certainly is, and Albertsons and Kroger.
It definitely rings true in the craft land, but I think larger suppliers could take note as well.
And I think a slam dunk is that there's going to be SKU rationalization this year, and it's already started and will continue.
Totally.
My mouse is dead. Hold, please. We're going to resume this. We're not starting over. It's going to be fine. I'm a master editor.
It's going to be fine. Do you ever feel bad about the way that you've talked to Alexa when you're like impatient?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like I'm scared that when the robots take over, Alexa's going to be like, this one definitely dies. She was such a bee to me. I'm always like, Alexa. And then I feel bad.
I did not have one until Joey moved in, and now it turns on all our lights. So
nice.
Yeah.
I totally feel you, Jen. I'm like super polite to Alexa, and I'm like, why am I so polite? And then I'm also like with Chat GPT, I feel like, oh, I'm asking it to do too much. Like it's a worker, like it's a physical.
Wow. You never think that about us, but you give that to Chat GPT. Really, Harry?
No, as a manager, I expect people to work faster. In my mind, a task takes a lot faster than it actually does. And I think I'm working on that. Things just take longer than you think. Here's advice from Harry. I'm going to look straight at the camera now since my computer screen is blank.
Pull it closer to you slowly, Harry.
I think you're right, Jen. I'm having a hard time picking. All the sessions were great. I mean, Jim Sabia, I would say, is just solid. That's the word. Sophia Colucci is, I would say, energetic. She brought fire to the stage. Paul Chibe is just blocking and tackling, getting back to basics, leadership, as Jordan called us, just two old beer heads up there talking. Me and Paul.
It's true.
I wanted to build y'all a set, just like a Cheers bar set, just be the beer maid.
Yeah. And the Happy Dad guys were just out there, doing their thing, and that was fun.
I think that was one of my favorite parts was them putting you on the spot to talk about
the
flavor and taste
right.
of a drink.
Just something
Harry's number one rule.
Yeah, something we do not talk about. And
I was really looking forward to trying the banana, but they did not bring it to the reception.
No, because it was like $1,000 a bottle to get the corking fee from the hotel. $10,000 for a turtle habitat fee. What the fuck? 10,000. It wasn't that big of a conference, 500 people, and they're charging $10,000 to save turtles. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm happy to pay it because I don't want to be the one that they say killed the last turtle on Coronado Island.
I didn't see a whole lot of turtles, so
maybe that's why, Jordan, we didn't pay enough last time.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Huh.
Lesson learned. I feel like I'm channeling Theo Vaughn, not really knowing what I'm doing.
And people watch that? They listen to that?
He's so charming.
Men watch weird podcasts.
Men do watch weird things. I'm like...
I'm glad you said that, Jen. That reminds me that we actually have a sponsor for this podcast.
Oh, shit, we do?
Yes. This podcast is sponsored by Salient Margin Minder. Thank you, Salient Margin Minder. And just to pull back the curtain a little bit, Margin Minder was a sponsor at the summit, and we were supposed to play a 1-minute video before we broke for lunch, and I forgot. And I apologize. So I'm going to make that up here at the end of this podcast. We're going to show that video. And let me just tell you that I've been in this business for, good God, how many years, Jen? 30?
30.
And I remember Margin Minder back then. And Johnny Gillis swore by it, GLI Distributing, my good friend. And it kind of sits on top of your RAS system, and it gives you charts and graphs for any metric you want on your phone or computer. So it's pretty cool. So check it out. Margin Minder by Salient. These folks have been doing this since as long as I've been in the business. And they're good folks, right, Biscuit? Biscuit is a huge margin minder user. It's the only way she knows.
Those margins.
She does. She's minding her margins. She's doing it well.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention Margin Minder on every podcast for the rest of the year.
I was going to say, this is probably not the podcast to put Margin Minder on. Just kidding, Margin Minder.
We love Margin Minder.
That was a good plug,
margins, Jen.
Yeah, you're a natural sponsor promoter.
I know. Well, I mean, I wish Jen would mind her margins.
I do. I mind my margins.
Yeah, I guess you mind them pretty good.
I guess so.
I guess so. No, Jen actually is a great margin minder because I remember like she would fly somewhere to go cover something, and I'm like, what is this charge for this Airbnb in the side of St. Louis? Like, this sounds for $25. Like, you stayed in the cheapest ass places for so long.
For the first like 5 years of working for Harry and Megan would be like, exactly. They'd be like, why are you eating cheeseburgers where you go? Like, what?
Why are
fast
you
food?
Where the conference
why are you saving us money? Go work for AB. Like, what are you doing? We have a reputation to uphold. So now,
yeah, Jill was
now she's got a 4-drink minimum.
Yeah, well, that was always the case, but yeah. Now I fly first class sometimes because I have a debilitating fear of flying. Actually, good news. It's transferred over to driving.
That's strange.
It's very strange.
Funny because I have a paralyzing fear of riding in a car that you're driving.
Oh my God. Don't start.
When I first interviewed Jen for this job, I flew to Houston because that's where she lived. She picked me up. And I mean, I was in fear. You were driving on medians. You were driving on the wrong side of the road. This was before we drank. And it was, you invited your friend to come along on the interview. It was,
Yeah, I didn't know what kind of creepo you were.
Wait, I don't know this history. How did you find Jen, Harry? Or how did Jen find you?
I found him. So I will tell you this story because Harry likes to take little personal liberties. So I was living in Indianapolis and I went to UT Austin for journalism, and I was doing all sorts of different like lifestyle things. And then I got into the B2B side, reporting on pizza, fast casual, QSR. But I was also doing like side gigs, pitching, beer magazines to do write-ups. And I found on the internet Beer Business Daily. I'd never heard of this before. And I found out that it was based in San Antonio, and I found it through Beer Advocate. People just, typical. People just love Harry, especially dudes. They just love Harry. So there's this whole thread on this guy, Harry Schuhmacher, and whether he's like awesome or terrible because he's a shill for big beer, man. He likes big beer, but that's okay because he's cool. It's all right. So I was like, who is this mythical creature? So I, using my journalistic prowess, found his email and emailed him and was like, hey, I'm from San Antonio. I'll be in for the holidays. We went and had like a 5 martini lunch.
Yeah. I mean, Paisanos on Bassy.
At Paisanos with Megan.
Yeah.
And a year later, I was living in Houston, and Harry emailed and he was like, I think I'm going to start a craft newsletter and I want you to edit it. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay, sure. So he was like, I'm going to be in Houston. I'm going to interview you. I was like, okay, guy.
Yeah.
So I brought my friend because we already had plans. And so the rest is history.
I'm glad that you're now over all the beer publications because you would hoard content for that Craft Business Daily. Like, I would be like, this is a huge story. Boston Beer just bought out somebody. Oh, no. It's on Craft Business only.
You know how I am. I want to win.
Oh, my God.
I remember that. And isn't it crazy now that Craft Business Daily is now basically, beyond beer, everything craft, but that we had a craft beer newsletter. Now, we might as well have an imports beer newsletter.
Yeah.
How the industry has changed so much in the last 13 years, night and day.
Really
it's
has.
Crazy. Well, yeah, I think that's it. We got some travel coming up. Bianca, if the roads are clear, is going to a Stone event soon, right? Stone Sapporo?
Sapporo, yeah. Tomorrow. They're debuting their 6-pack for Year of the Dragon.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. It's in downtown LA. So I haven't been to a beer event in LA. I feel like that will be swanky.
Yeah. They pour their beer in martini glasses. Maybe we should start doing that. Like,
who says I don't?
Yeah, true. I heard you got into a couple martinis at the Summit Wrap dinner, Harry. I'm sorry that I missed that.
I did.
Yeah.
I was on fire. At least I thought I was. We missed you at dinner, Jen. Comil just swept in with Ed. They had a few drinks and then swept out to catch a red eye or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
And Jordan and I are at the Samcom for a day in beautiful New Orleans next week. So
okay, commented on my fingerless gloves. They don't match.
I saw them. Yes.
You look very Brooklyn today, Harry.
That's right.
Harry loves this new pub called The Cottage, and I think he likes getting into character when he goes there. Not only for outward appearances, but then he spent the whole time talking in a Scottish accent there.
Even though it's an Irish pub.
It reminded me of the good old days where I used to meet Harry to work, and then he would just sit there and say, "What are you working on? What are you working on? Why aren't you done yet? Are you still working on that?" I'm like, how am I? And then just when he's not asking those questions, doing silly little accents or jokes or
doing bits with the waitresses. But I mean, Jordan, I think he wants me to just grab his computer and finish it for him. I think he wants me to get frustrated. Just let me do it. That yesterday.
There were days when I was hoping that would be the case. Not so much anymore.
Not so much
anymore because you don't have to deal with the corrections afterwards. I mean, I wrote one Drizzly story, and now I've got to talk to GoPuff about.
But that's great because now although I think Randy is still with them, right? So we'd want to talk to him. But hey, any chance to get a scoop?
Yeah,
this is our entree, right?
I told him, I said, just give me a time. Because honestly, I think I know everything, but obviously I don't, and I need to learn. A private equity guy who emailed me this morning was like, "Thank you so much." He goes, I didn't get to say hi to you because I was in so many meetings. He goes, "That's the greatest thing about your conference is I can schedule top to top meetings with everybody." Hey, it's the summit is the place where deals get done and where you can test out Margin Minder by Salient. If you ain't minding margins, what are you doing, Biscuit? Biscuits just goes out and solves crimes at night using math. Yeah. I put a bell on her over Christmas, and it really took a hit on her solving crimes because a lot of it's stealth. And so she asked me to take the bell off. She couldn't do it herself because, no opposing thumbs. A lot of limitations with a dog. I'm thinking about getting a puppy.
What about Milo?
No.
No.
And Milo. Biscuit's getting old, and would it be better to get a puppy now so that Biscuit can kind of train it? Does that happen, first of all? Or is that just going to hasten Biscuit's death, and I'm going to end up with this horrible puppy, and then having 2 dogs for a time is going to be miserable? I just don't know what to do. But
I think you wait, maybe, right? Because you're going to be you're going to be really sad when Biscuit goes to the great.
But if I have a backup dog that's just right there, ready to go,
But then the backup dog will be sad when Biscuit dies.
Backup dog don't care. Backup dog will be glad when Biscuit dies because then it'll get more food. That's how dogs.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think you need to consult the expert.
Yeah. Isn't that us though? That's
like
us.
No, but there's like we as a cat household listen to the cat daddy.
Yeah. Okay.
Jackson Galaxy cat daddy. So who's the cat daddy of dogs?
Caesar Milan.
I trust cat people more than I trust dog experts. I know that sounds just crazy, but
Les and I have two. I think Biscuit could be a good teacher, though.
I mean, it's not like she's doing anything else but sleeping. She sleeps good 20, 22 hours a day.
Oh, the Biscuit.
And a puppy might fight for your affection more in the beginning with another dog, you know?
That's good. And you want that, right? You want the dog to love
Yeah.
you,
Well, yeah,
respect you.
You would think. So I
Will
don't know.
Biscuit teach it like not to be all hyper and chew everything up? And Biscuit, will you be a good teacher? You're gonna have to wake up for this.
I think Biscuit would be fairly annoyed because whatever dog you get is going to be pretty hyper and just wanting to, play with Biscuit the whole time. And Biscuit's probably just going to sit there and nap.
Right. But yeah,
after, a year or so, Biscuit will start loving that puppy too.
Yeah.
So,
well, especially because I'm probably just gonna get the same dog, like another yellow lab puppy. And that way Biscuit will think, oh, it's mine. It looks like me. It might be mine.
Does Biscuit know she's a yellow lab?
Where'd that come from?
She's looked into glass windows and she knows, right? I don't know. It might be the reason I'm thinking about it now, because now when the next summit is 360 days away is the best time to pull triggers on things like this.
Do not get a puppy right before the summit.
Right before the holidays. That would be a disaster. So I need to do it now or just wait a year. But Biscuit's been slowing down a lot in the last few months. Like,
you've taken her to the vet, right?
She's going to the vet today at 4:30.
Maybe she has like hip issues or something.
Yeah, just an old dog.
Oh,
I might just put her down today at the vet, and that way,
Harry,
get a new dog. Don't have to worry
definitely take that off the pod. People will cancel you in droves. You
I'm just kidding, Biscuit. You know I would do that. That's a good dog. She doesn't care. She's like, please put me down.
Oh,
miserable.
Oh.
Maybe you don't need another dog, Harry.
Yeah. Yeah. Red flag.
Yeah.
Red flags all around. Well,
red flag, like my favorite Bevel.
Red flag. Enough on that. Bad Jenn. Squirt. Where's the squirt bottle? I would love to sit here and just bullshit with you people for another hour.
Yeah.
But somebody has important work to do. And I'm talking about myself. I got a one wheel with a low tire, and I need to figure out if it's flat or if it's just low. Got to go talk to GoPuff, them tell me what an idiot I am. Love that. Love it.
Don't you just lose pressure in your tires when it's really cold outside?
Yeah, but it's been inside. Don't worry, though. If that one doesn't work, I have another one. And if that one doesn't work, I have another one.
Harry, I'm not clear. Have they discontinued your models? Have they recalled them in actuality?
They've all been recalled in as much as you just have to download more better firmware, but nobody's downloading the firmware because it makes the board slower. So,
including you.
Including me. Yes. Yeah. The US government has demanded that these are too dangerous. I'm talking about the one wheel electric self-balancing board, and that there needs to be this firmware that has a governor on it. And everybody's just laughed and laughed and laughed until our collarbones break. And then there's no more laughter. So really, I think what I've learned through the community, of which I'm a part of, is you don't download the firmware until you break a bone. Then you download the firmware and start using it. So that's my plan. I made a video rant on my private channel, Harry and Hound, and it's gotten picked up a lot. There's another guy that does like real cinematic videos, and he put a clip of me in there, and I can't tell you how excited I was about that.
I'm sure.
It's like bigger than being quoted in the New York Times. But enough about that. God, obviously I live alone because I sound like just the loneliest old man rambling about his one wheel.
No.
With your private YouTube channel, Harry and
Yeah.
How.
Right. Which I plugged like as if I want anybody in the beer industry seeing what I do on that channel. I really don't. Don't look for it.
Definitely don't look for it at this
Don't
address.
Don't look for it. At Harry and Hound. One word.
Yeah, that doesn't make you sound lonely, Harry. Harry and Hound.
Harry and Hound.
Hey, Harry, on the bright side, at least you're not an incel.
No, I am getting laid, I think. Last I checked.
And on that note, we should really do a survey of our pod listeners, although I don't know if I have the stomach for the results.
Well, you know what? I'd like to do a shout out to Mindy Ferguson, because she came up to me at the summit. She said she's never missed an episode.
Wow.
She's a wholesaler in Missouri. And Mindy, glad to have you as a listener. And thank you for
Mindy.
coming up and telling us.
Yeah.
She's been very dedicated to the pod. And she says that's the future.
Nice. It is the future. It's the future and it's the past and it's the present, I would say. I'm just going to go on record as saying it's the present because we're doing it right now.
Right now.
On that, we will shout at you next week.
Yep.
For Wednesday Warehouse.
That Margin Minder has. I've been using Margin Minder for 14 years, and every year I add another gap of knowledge that I didn't know was available before.
Margin Minder definitely makes the process of gathering information, analyzing information much quicker than other platforms.
We capture all of the sales information from our route accounting system, so quantities, every element of cost, every element of revenue, margin that we make on the product. But we also load in internal budgets as well as all of our external goals and objectives from our suppliers. And then on top of that, we layer in shelf set information. We layer in tap data. We layer in all of our operational data around inventory transactions and code dates. And when you combine all of that information within one system and link it all together, it enables you to really see the whole picture and compare sales to taps or sales to inventory and connect all of the different pieces that are in all of these different systems